Hello and welcome back to Like Maria. Today I'm going to talk to you about A-level choices in the English field, and I'm going to start off today with talking about English literature. I'm aware that some of you are at that very difficult moment when you're deciding English language, literature or the combined course. Today it's all going to be about English literature. This is going to be a general video, not for a particular specification, but all of them have the same assessment objectives, and I will talk to you about those. Obviously, different specifications and different schools and colleges choose different texts. So, first of all, English literature, very much what it says on the tin. It's literary texts. So, very little non-fiction. It's all going to be fictional texts. That's texts that are made up by people to entertain, persuade, inform, but they're made up and they are essentially stories, descriptions and observations. And we are covering in A-level literature the three main genres. That will be drama, poetry and prose. And by prose, I mean novels and short stories. So let's start off with drama. At A-level, you'll be expected to read the play by yourself. The teacher won't go through it in the class with you. And you'll probably end up doing a modern play from the 20th or perhaps even 21st century. And almost every course has a Shakespeare play. So you need to be the sort of person that can read that Shakespeare play by themselves with the help of notes and with input from teacher in class. But the teacher might say, go away, read Act 1, come back with some ideas about the imagery Shakespeare uses next week. And you'll have to be prepared to do that and think for yourself. Whole range of other drama, different types of drama, more realistic drama, or for example, you might study a play by Beckett, that will be a little more tricky and perhaps something that you haven't read or seen even before. And drama often is sectioned out into tragedy and comedy, and depending on your teacher and your college and your school, you will have a selection of that. So that's drama. Number 2 would be poetry. Again, with the poetry, you're likely to do modern poetry, perhaps an anthology, and older poetry, so more traditional poetry. So for example, you might do a modern anthology of poetry, probably about 20 poems, and within that there will be practice for writing about an unseen poem, which most specifications have in the exam, where you're given an unseen poem that you've never read before and you're asked to write about it and think about it. Also, there will be the 20 poems from your anthology. You won't have the anthology, the text in the exam, but the poem that you're asked to discuss will be printed for you more often than not. So you will have some sense of the poetry in front of you and the shape of the poem. The older poetries like to be more traditional. It might go way back to Chaucer in the 14th century, so that's before Shakespeare, or it might be a little bit more up to date in the 18th and 19th centuries. There will be a theme or a particular poet or group of poets that you will study. So the Romantic poets, or Keats, or Shelley, something along those lines. So that's your poetry. Often within the poetry module, you are asked to do comparison between one poem and another. So that comparative assessment objective is brought in there. Lastly, there will be some prose to study, and this is novels and or short stories. So it might be short stories like Joyce's Dubliners, for example, or it might be a novel like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. You will have old novels and newer novels as well. And usually the prose is part of your coursework. So very often it's novels for coursework. Coursework usually is about 20% of your A-level, and you get a chance to submit one draft and the teacher will give you very limited feedback on that draft. And it's usually about writing about 3,000 words or something along those lines. So with prose, you'll find yourself again reading quite challenging texts, maybe from the 20th century or beyond. But again, you will have to be prepared to read these on your own. There will be no detailed going through chapter by chapter in class. You'll have to be prepared to bring ideas, read the sections of the novel and talk to the class about them. A lot of English is bringing your own ideas. So let me just quickly run through the assessment objectives. They're the things laid down by the exam board that you will be tested on. So number one is the ability to structure an essay and think about arguments and respond well to arguments. So that's number one. This involves using literary terminology and formulating literary ideas, and bringing in quotations, of course, and looking at unpicking quotations. Very closely aligned to that is assessment objective 2, which is all about close reading, delving into text and bringing interpretations, looking at the shape of text, the structure of text, and the literary devices employed, whether that's dramatic devices, prose devices, or poetry devices. So AO2 really getting into the nitty-gritty of the construction of a text and how the creator of a text has shaped your response to that text. AO3 is all about context. You'll have covered this somewhat at GCSE previously. AO3 is about knowing about the author, the times that the author was writing in. It will be looking at the surrounding history and the context even of other novels, plays, poems that feed into the knowledge about the one that you're studying. So you've touched on this at GCSE a little bit before. It's about knowing some of the different types of influences that are either about how a text is written or about how it's read. Assessment objective number 4 is all about comparisons. So as I said, particularly with the poetry and in coursework, you're often asked to compare, and it's about you being able to identify different aspects of text that you can analyse in a comparative way. Straightforward enough. You've done that at GCSE as well. And then assessment objective 5 is all about different interpretations and different ways of reading text. And this is where your views, your own views, really come into their own. And to me, this is the really exciting part of A-level English literature, that you can respond to the text and shape your response. Very often, your response will be shaped by what your teachers say, what your classmates say, and what other extra supportive reading that you have done about a text. So if you're studying Hamlet, for example, you might go away and read some criticism about Hamlet. Criticism doesn't mean writing bad things about the text. It means writing a critical comment about the text, having an opinion about the text. And part of doing A-level is reading other people's criticism, other people's ideas about the text that you're studying, processing them for yourself, and then writing your own ideas and putting forward an argument. So there we have it, the 5 assessment objectives for English literature and the 3 key genres. What I would say about doing English literature is that you have to love reading. You have to be prepared to read not only the texts in front of you, you have to be prepared to read other texts that feed into those. You have to listen to recommendations from your teacher about other texts and about critical reading. And there is, particularly, for example, for the Shakespeare, an anthology of critical reading that you will have to do. The other thing you need to be good at and enjoy is writing essays. You don't need to be the sort of person that gets homework, write an essay, and you go, oh goodness. You need to be the person that says, great, what can I say about this book? What can I analyse? What is it that really fires me up about this play or this poem? And I'm looking forward to really expressing my ideas. So there you have it, English literature in a reasonable nutshell. Please like and subscribe if you found that helpful, and ask me any questions in the comments below.